Importing assets from third-party programs is not always a smooth process. Our initial project starts off with a folder called Art, and within it you see a few subfolders: Materials, Models, Prefabs, Sprites, and Textures. All of these assets have already been placed in Unity. We will need to make adjustments to them, but things, for example, like weight mapping on rigs, rotations, flipped normals, and different formats such as FBX ASCII or FBX binary or DIE collada, while all being valid formats, often present problems. So let's go over the textures that you might want to import and the settings that you'll want to apply to them. To keep things interesting, let's get straight to the meat, the 3D models. In here you'll see several models. Let's go over to the one that says Hero. Hero is an FBX file, and whenever you import an FBX file, you will see that the scale will actually be 1/100th. If you want to adjust the scale, such as I set it to, obviously, 1, it will bring up the initial size of the object. There are many settings here. The ones that we'll have to worry about is generate light map UVs, which we'll look into once we are concerning ourselves with light mapping. Normals and tangents concern themselves with UV mapping and mesh smoothing. Considering all 3D is discrete, meaning that there is no such thing as a perfect sphere, it is just a very iterated polygon, an icosahedron with lots of divisions, or a sphere. Often we want to give an illusion of smoothness through something called normal smoothing. And this will take the vertices and it will point them in a way under a certain angle that the object will appear smooth. Now you can either import these settings from your 3D package of choice, or you can calculate what angle you would want the object to be smoothed as. So for example, in this case it says if an angle of 60 degrees is found, smooth that transition. Tangents concerns itself with UVs. Importing materials includes the materials with the textures, but the textures might not always match. So there is some tedious work that sometimes you'll have to do in order to get the model to look like it did in your 3D package. So in our case, we're actually going to be bringing this in. It's asking me if I want to apply these settings. No, I don't, because I actually haven't made any. In the prefabs, you'll see the hero that I have up here with the settings that I applied. And we'll get to what prefabs are in just a moment. So to continue on with the settings, we see that we also have a rig. Now, in Unity 4, a system called Mechanism was introduced in order to make rigging more robust and introduced a more robust animation system. In this case, we will be using a generic rig with Mechanism. Animations are something that you'll have to specify at the beginnings and the end of each animation. Walk cycles, idle cycles, jump, etc. And we'll get to those later as well. Okay, let's look at textures. Let's look at, for example, this one that says lantern. Here we have a few settings. This says that its texture type is texture, wrap mode is repeat, filter bilinear. Filter mode bilinear implies aliasing, or the quality of aliasing. In computers, as you know, things are not smooth, things are made up of pixels. So things are not very jagged, so the object itself looks smooth. We have something called anti-aliasing. So aliasing is basically stairs, and we are trying to make those stairs a slide, so we don't see a choppy line. So this adds a few tricks. It blurs out some lines, adds some lines that are not completely jagged to it. Some have an alpha adjusted. Basically, it takes whatever you want and it makes it blend in. So just because we have this texture here, we do have a few other settings here. For example, a normal map, which is what this is, allows us some settings to adjust the bumpiness of an object. The GUI editor legacy means that it's going to be a lossless file. It will not be compressed. Sprite 2D UGUI is a sprite that will be used in Unity's newest GUI system. Cursor is a possible cursor that you might want to use in your game. Light map, cookie is something that you would want to put in front of your light in order to give it a blocked out effect. And a light map, we will get to light mapping. It's a way to bake in your texture. Advanced is advanced, and it will specify some settings which are advanced. For example, changing your textures, you want to set it as read-write enabled. And there are formats if you don't want it to be compressed. It will give you also a wealth of other options which are actually even going out of the screen. This is still going to be a texture. I can give this a certain compression size. I can also set this to true color. In this case, that will be an uncompressed texture. Do not want to apply anything. In this case, this is going to be a texture. Set this to normal map. It'll say create from grayscale. If you do set that, then it will allow you to adjust the bumpiness as well. Now, considering this has already been set up as a normal map, we do not need to create one. Materials. Sometimes you are bringing in your own, sometimes you are importing them. So I have a variety of materials here that are being brought in from the package that I used, Blender. And they have been brought in because I specified that in the import settings. Some of them I do want to create myself, such as these. If I have sandbox scenes, I usually create a separate folder for them, but this will be our main scene, so I'm just going to press Command S, and I'm going to call it main. Okay, this is an internal issue. You can clear this console if you are getting this error at all. Okay, and now we have main. We can go ahead and drag in our model here from the prefab, the hero model. And we'll conclude this lesson here.